Hello, everybody. Welcome to CA World, day number 2, or for some of you, day number 3. How many of you have been enjoying yourselves while you've been here in Las Vegas this week? Raise your hands. Okay. Are you being honest with me? That went up reluctantly. It's good that you made time to come today because I'm hoping to share with you a couple things that'll be of interest to you. Now, you can see from the slide I'm going to be talking a little bit about DevOps. How many of you have heard DevOps at least 1,000 times this week? Raise your hand. Okay, I'll try not to overuse it. And although I'm not a rocket scientist, I have worked at a rocket factory, not far from here in the Rocky Mountains. I got my early start in IT at Thiokol Propulsion. Have any of you heard of Morton Thiokol Propulsion? They make the solid rocket boosters for the space shuttle. Pretty cool place to start. I moved then into the father of modern networked computing, Novell. Any of you heard of Novell? Okay, so some of you are old enough to remember. Novell was it. I was in the development or the engineering department doing test engineering of their code. And today, I work at Citrix and have spent the last 10 years in an operations management role over Citrix's own use of their products internally. Today I'm going to talk to you about 3 main things we've done in our DevOps journey, and I'm hoping they're of interest to you. First, DevOps simulation training. Second, using tools as a catalyst. And third, starting with a project and trying to make it a DevOpsified project and sharing with you some of the lessons learned from that. I am fortunate to work at Citrix. This is a company who works so hard to make sure that you can access your apps and your data securely from any device at any time, anywhere. And look at this guy. He's smiling. He's not in a traditional office space. This might be a really nice pad at home, and he's remoting into work. But with Citrix Technologies, he's able to get it done from wherever he is. And I enjoy my work at Citrix, and I hope that it's made your lives better as well. So, Rocket Factory, Novell, Citrix. I'm pretty lucky that I've been able to work at places whose offering to society is of high value and where the pace of change is constant and where the technology is cutting edge. Before I start then, let me take you back to when I was in college. Rocky Mountains, northern Utah. Beautiful, beautiful mountains. My brother and I liked to go hiking. We'd often invite friends to come with us. And my brother is he's clever, but he had a hiking checklist that he would use when he invited people to come along. On this list was where we were going, when to meet, what to bring, and then there was a section called Select Hiking Speed. There were 2 options. First, yours and mine, much faster. Now, we got a chance to have fun with this, but it was interesting that there were some breathtaking views that were reserved for those who made it to the top of the mountain. And today, I want you to think about this in terms of how you're working at your company. We can continue to work at your current pace and do things the way traditional IT has always done them. Or you can do them at a faster pace, a DevOps pace, and go much faster. There were some pain points at Citrix that drew us to start looking at DevOps. You don't spontaneously do something like this. You don't change without an impetus for change. So for us, we noticed that some groups were leading out and doing individualized DevOps attempts. we found that the development group wanted to do their own version of quick deployments. Another group, their own version. And thinking of hiking again, there's always that steep learning curve of adopting DevOps principles. And like a hike, you can make everybody climb that steep hike, or you can try and collect those best practices, those lessons learned, and share them with others in the department or across the company so that you have a better, consistent adoption of those principles. So we were suffering in that way. Second, have you noticed how you never know where you are until you're trying to push something to make it better? We couldn't measure where we were, much less what DevOps was going to bring us. It's all a lot of intangibles, and you might hear me say that word more than once. So that was another pain point for us. And in bringing this to upper management, with all these great concepts, we found that it was a hard sell. They were ambivalent because it was a lot of talk about process, DevOps principles, better collaboration. But there really wasn't anything for them to hold on to and make decisions with. So these were some of our pain points. Have any of you run into these pain points where you work? I see a lot of head nods. Okay, good. So one of the things we wanted to do was start changing the mentality. And we started to partner with CA, who offered a DevOps simulation training. This was an important thing for us, and I'm going to tell you why. But first, I want to get a pulse from the audience. How many of you consider yourselves development for your companies? If you could raise your hands, please. I spoke to a couple of you in advance. A couple developers here, good. Most of you are true developers because you're doing one of these, like, I don't want to be noticed, I just want to keep coding while he talks. Okay. What about test? How many of you consider yourselves test? Okay, we got some squarely in the test department and some that play on the fringe, good. And now, operations. Okay, not as many as I expected. So you can see we have a pretty diverse group here, dev, test, and ops. Now, what if I were to get each of you into a room, have you change hats for a couple hours, and start having operations people code, coders test, testers deploy to operations? Now we'll also invite project management and the business into the room. Can you imagine the insight you could gain from something like that? CA Technologies brought in a 4-hour DevOps simulation training for us. And it was amazing that within 5 minutes of starting this process of sitting in someone else's chair, doing their job, I heard some very familiar arguments. And they were arguments. First, they started as jokes. You know these, like, hey, it broke again. Or, I'd have coded it right if you gave me the right requirements. Or, can you guys push this out already? We're losing value. The project's about to go to zero. These are things that we would hear, and within 5 minutes, people were throwing the same comments back and forth. It was so insightful because it wasn't the same people. It only took 5 minutes for these things to surface, and it was clear at that point that it was no longer personality differences or political battles that were causing these problems. It was the conditions. It was the lack of proper information flow. It was the absence of proper collaboration across teams. One of our developers came out with this regarding production changes. Get them done already, right? You get pushback from ops, and you wonder, why is this such a big deal? Being on the other side, you do understand what's going on. It was a real eye-opener for me. When your development people start sounding like operations people, you know that they've come out with something very important. One word: perspective. Critical when you're trying to change the culture from traditional to something more agile or DevOps oriented. I'm going to ask for your help here. This is a little weird, I know, but if you wouldn't mind helping me demonstrate something by standing up And those of you who are coding on your laps, you can hold your laptop for this. That's okay. If you wouldn't mind, please stand up in place. This won't take long, and it won't hurt, I promise. I want each of you to take your right foot and step to the right. Now with your left foot, this one, I want you to slide over and touch the other foot. Now, with your left, step and drag your right foot till they touch. Okay, you may now sit down. What we just accomplished in less than 15 seconds is we swept this whole auditorium. And we got dev, test, and ops orchestrated, working together to pull it off. I served as the orchestration engine, and each of you did your job, did your part to bring about something worthwhile. We realized, just like in this example, that you can't just talk about it. You can't take a DevOps principle and chat and make things better. You have to find a way to orchestrate the efforts of dev, test, and ops to bring about real results. So at Citrix, we did something that you might consider a little unconventional, and something that I'm going to recommend you consider. And that is using tools as a catalyst. You've heard this before. Fill in the blank. People, process, tools. First you get the right people, then you build the process around it, and then you get the tools that back that up. At Citrix, we had the concepts going, but it was not tangible. Upper management couldn't go with principles. So we decided to use tools as a catalyst. And make no mistake, DevOps is a momentum play. You're not going to have DevOps happen on its own. If it did, none of us would need to be doing what we do at work. So we brought in CA release automation, this orchestration tool, to help kickstart our adoption of DevOps principles. We had a couple of criteria for this proof of concept. First, it needed to be something that was versatile. So we needed to be able to handle traditional code flows. Check in, roll forward, deploy. We also needed to take something that was a process and be able to speed it up. Two totally different camps. We told CA, you've got to do both or you don't make it. And then we needed something that wasn't just another open source experiment, that wasn't just another team starting to try DevOps. We were trying to centralize our approach and take all of those threads of DevOps interest from other teams and bring them together. This had to be an enterprise-level platform that would allow us to go to each of these existing efforts and say, bring what you have. It'll plug right in. Because as soon as you go to somebody and say, have I got a solution for you? Do it my way. You lose their interest and you stifle their spirit of innovation. These were our criteria. So we picked an app that's important for us at Citrix called My Citrix. And just so you know what I'm going to be talking about for the next few minutes, My Citrix is a platform that allows customers and partners to manage their relationship with Citrix. This covers things from licensing to maintenance and support. And although it has a single name, it's got a bunch of moving pieces. So when I'm talking about My Citrix, this is a customer-facing, critical app for our company. We started out in the POC with where we were. A manual deployment of My Citrix and all of its moving pieces in one monolithic release took 97 minutes. 97 minutes. Hang on, 96 and a half minutes to go till this deployment's done. Get comfortable. 96 minutes left. You can see how that can slow down what we need to do. 97 minutes. We brought in release automation, and we're able to automate this delivery across all of the various systems and bring it down to an 18-minute delivery. Not bad for a proof of concept. All you mathematicians, help me out. 80% faster. Immediately, we had something tangible. We had something we could go to press with. We started broadcasting this internally to show, hey, this stuff has promise. Look at this. And to their credit, the development team partnered with us immediately. Shortly afterward, they came out with a redesign of My Citrix, all on their own. And if you can get a redesign mentality out of your best people, and you developers know this, you are perhaps the smartest people in the room. And if people would get out of your way, you could make miracles happen. They went and redesigned My Citrix in the following way. Remember, we had one giant 97-minute deployment, one piece. When they refactored it, they ended up breaking it into its component parts, 16 individual applications. This was brilliant because now we didn't have to push everything. We pushed what was necessary or what got changed. We also found that it reduced errors to do it this way. Instead of pushing everything while application number 5 was still in development, whoops, that went into production half-baked, we were able to select just the pieces that we needed. And they were able to go out in a standard deployment. Now, when we put this new architecture to the test in a manual delivery, it was already down to 25 minutes, no tools involved. Again, maximize the talent of your development team. So we reapplied release automation to this and got it down to 6 minutes. A typical deployment was now 6 minutes. Okay, mathematicians? That equates to 94% faster. Not bad for our first attempt at DevOps catalyzing with a tool. This raised eyebrows and got some attention. But we can make the value even higher. What's next is we can start automating our testing for My Citrix so that we don't have anybody having to do manual testing once it's done. And optimally, we'll get to the point where we are advancing from dev to test to pre-production to production with the push of a single button, assuming the code goes well. Additional value can be realized that way. But now that this is in production for us at Citrix, we've realized some benefits. And we've looked ahead a couple years. When you're starting something new, like shifting from traditional IT to the IT of the future, slow pace with the interest of making it solid versus going aggressively to production, and it might break every once in a while, but you can fail fast and recover quickly. There's always an investment needed, not in just time, but in dollars. Usually there's not a quick ROI on new investment. We're fortunate that within 3 years we expect to have a positive ROI in time saving and in cost efficiencies from error avoidance. But there's more. And this is something that you really need to consider at your companies. When you start looking at DevOps principles, using tools as a catalyst, making yourselves more agile, there are some benefits that are really hard to quantify. Upper management wants hard numbers. But look at some of these things. Guaranteed SOX compliance. In our automation flow, we require a checkbox before anything can go to production that somebody has signed off on all of the controls for our SOX compliance. Our governance is guaranteed if something hits production for My Citrix. That is a big win. Hard to put dollar value on that. Second, the solid reputation with customers. You've probably struggled with how to monetize that or put value on that. That's significant. The audit trail of who pushed what to which systems, when, is all right there in the tool set. And last, I've got self-actualization up there. That's my way of saying, if you can take the mundane, repeatable, standardized processes and automate them and take them off the backs of your talent, you free them up to do more of the things that you hired them to do, which is innovate, make great things, move your company forward. So these benefits, although they don't have dollar value, should be in the back of your mind as you're considering an investment in something that will help you shift from traditional to what's new. What's next for us at Citrix? With release automation, remember it does code and process. We've started our Salesforce deployments in a proof of concept to see how much faster those can be. There's a lot of manual effort with that. We are highly customized in our Salesforce implementation, and we need something to make that pill go down easier. So we're playing with release automation for that. It looks promising at this point. But now for process, you see IT change management up there. We're even looking at how to get internal audit over, are we in compliance with our change management process, to take their quarterly reports of what was changed and what was approved to be changed, and automating the reconciliation of those reports so an auditor doesn't have to do it. All the auditor has to do is take the results and focus in on areas where there are discrepancies. We don't have it yet, but internal audit for the first time in a while is excited about something IT can offer them that isn't heartburn. You see Trillium software on the right side. We're playing with service virtualization, another CA technology, no pun intended there, that allows us to improve how we test with Trillium. So these are some of the moving pieces we have, and hopefully we'll have more to report on in the future. But things for you to consider at your company as well. Now, we've talked about how we wanted to get our mindset changed with DevOps simulation training, how we use tools as a catalyst, now a project that we wanted to make a DevOps project. And I wanted to share a few quick lessons learned from our first experience. First, you can't just call a project a DevOps project and make it a DevOps project. We tried that. Didn't work. But we did find that early involvement with QA, that's the test guys, operations, and the project team, including the developers, at the beginning helped foster better empathy for the lifespan of the project. One of the lessons learned is, in the middle of the project, after we kicked it off strong, developers went back to their corner, ops went back to fighting fires, and test was just too busy to talk. So we found that early involvement needs to be continuous involvement. Next, mock deployments. How many of you do mock deployments in your companies? This means before you go live in production, you have a pre-prod environment where it's the operations people actually taking the scripts that they would need and the instructions they would need and pretending it's live. In our mock deployment, we had a problem with expectation setting. The project team expected to find a whole litany of problems in the mock deployment because, hey, it's not perfect yet, it's not in production yet, so don't expect that. Operations came in thinking, hey, you're almost going live, this thing better be really good. And we found that that difference in expectation caused some friction. When the mock deployment started bringing up problems of missing steps in the deployment plan, or tables that needed to be created in the database that were already there because the test environment was being reused for the mock, you could see there was some room for frustration. So when you're doing mock deployments, make sure you're setting expectations properly so that everyone can gain the benefits without the heat of new frustration. Last, normally there's a post-mortem for every meeting, for every project, and it tends to focus on the project flow. We introduced a tech retrospective within a week or two of the actual go live that was focused on the DevOps aspects. Meaning, how did we collaborate from dev, test, and ops? What were the operation-specific things that went wrong? What can we do to make them better? This made the ops team very happy because finally they were getting the attention they needed for the problems that were impacting customers. Development loved it because they got frank feedback in a professional back and forth discussion. It was constructive. So consider a tech retrospective when you are closing out a DevOps project. In summary, a couple points I want you to walk away from this with. First, boost your DevOps culture change with DevOps simulation training. It's available here at CA World upstairs. There's also a booth for it here. But it can totally change the mindset. Next, catalyze with tools. You've got to find a way to make DevOps real. Consider adoption of a tool, even if it's a small adoption. Third, make sure you're doing release automation. You have to have a platform that makes people think differently. Can I automate this? Is there a smarter way to do what I'm doing? Because I know there's a lot of focus. There's a platform that'll support me. How can I use that? Inspire that redesign mentality. And last, optimize a project and learn forward from your mistakes. You don't do DevOps right off the bat. You have to learn through it. So, the next time you go hiking, you've got some choices. You can continue to do things you've always done at the pace you've always done them, or you can start doing them at a faster pace, a DevOps pace, and take them much faster. There's some other sessions that you might want to do follow-on work in this area on the board here, and some demos, and I'd direct you as well to the conversations at the Smart Bar specific to release automation and DevOps simulation training. Here's my contact information. And at this point, I'd encourage anyone with questions, we have a few minutes for that, to come to the front microphone. But I thank you for your time today.
So why do you think it took an external company to come in and do the DevOps simulator to get your organization to realize that people weren't getting the information they needed, all that wasn't getting around in your organization? Why did you need an external company to come in and tell you that?
That's a great question. The one thing we liked about CA was that we were still learning about DevOps as a concept. And when they came in, we didn't want them pushing product. We wanted to learn about DevOps. We didn't have that expertise in-house. And when they came in as a trusted advisor rather than someone trying to push us into a purchase or a contract. And we found that this packaged training took a very complex idea and made it very digestible. Like I said, within 5 minutes of the role change, people's light bulbs were going off of not only is this cool perspective, but why didn't we do this sooner? So echoing your question basically is, why did we take this long and why did we need to have someone come in? But if you're in that position, I recommend you try it. So the comment was, I'm saying all the right things internally, but it's not making a difference. And I'm wondering, therefore, do I need an external voice to validate what I'm saying? And sometimes that does help, especially a company with the cloud of CA, the experience of CA, that can really help send the message that a single person or a single team may be unable to accomplish. Any other questions? Thank you for that. Going once? Okay. I thank you for your time and attention. Enjoy the rest of your stay at CA World.